The Ming Dynasty emperors were notorious for their short lifespans, with many monarchs dying in their 30s. However, the founding emperor, Zhu Yuanzhang, achieved the distinction of being the longest-lived among the Ming Dynasty's emperors. Putting aside his imperial status, the question of which Ming Dynasty prince lived the longest, is Zhu Yun. Zhu Yuanzhang's 18th son, Zhu Yun, was already over 50 when he was born, a child born late in life, compared to his older brothers, who were born during wartime. Zhu Yun enjoyed a privileged upbringing and was doted on from a young age. However, this doting also denied him the opportunity to compete for power with his brothers. In fact, Zhu Yun was 2 years younger than the crown prince, Zhu Yunwen. Despite being a prince, he often played with the other grandchildren, calling himself the little uncle. After a carefree life in the palace until the age of 12, Zhu Yun faced his first challenge, the age for ennoblement. At the beginning of the Ming Dynasty, Zhu Yuanzhang, to prevent powerful ministers from monopolizing power, fathered many princes and assigned them frontier troop command posts. Granting a title of nobility was supposedly a blessing. But why did Zhu find it so troubling? He had 17 older brothers, and except for his eldest brother, Zhu Biao, who remained in the capital, the others had already divided up the strategically located fiefdoms. Before the division, Zhu Yu had anticipated that he would not receive a fertile fiefdom, but he never expected to be named the king of Minzhou. Located in the northwest, had a harsh climate, far inferior to that of the Central Plains. Worse still, Min's frontier location was plagued by constant war. The princes and grandchildren were reluctant to move there, and few common people settled there. At only 12 years old, Zhu Yu was deeply troubled by this, but he dared not disobey his father's orders and went anyway. This was Zhu Yu's first move, from the warm and humid city of Nanjing to the dry and bitter cold of the northwest. After arriving in Minzhou, Zhu Yun lived a secluded life. After all, it was nearly 3.000 miles from the capital. Even sending messages by carrier pigeon would take 10 days. During his 4 years in Minzhou, Zhu Yun could only learn about the capital's developments through sporadic information. The following year, he learned that his eldest brother, Zhu Biao, was seriously ill and bedridden, and would soon pass away. Although Zhu Yun was delighted by his nephew, 2 years his senior, he was also filled with worry. Knowing his brother's personalities and tactics, he knew that life would be difficult for Zhu Yunwen, the crown prince. Although Zhu Yun worried about his childhood friend, his concerns were quickly dispelled by the cold northwest wind. Compared to the highly regarded crown prince, he, the prince, seemed forgotten. Thus, Zhu Yun spent 3 years in Minzhou, bored and idle, even building a simple palace. The Min Palace was completed on the same day that Zhu Yun celebrated his 16th birthday. So, in this drafty palace, he married his first concubine, finally feeling at home. However, before the child was born, a transfer order arrived. Upon receiving the imperial edict, Zhu Yu's eyes moistened, and he thought his father had not forgotten him after all. But as he unfolded it, his mood plummeted. It turned out that his father, Zhu Yuanzhang, had greatly admired his perseverance, believing that Minzhou was perfectly organized under his governance, and the recently pacified Yunnan frontier desperately needed a pillar of strength like him to lead the charge. Holding the imperial edict in hand, Zhu Yu gazed upon the Min Palace he had painstakingly built, then thought of the miasma-ridden southern Xinjiang, tears welling in his eyes. But the emperor's orders were undeniable, and what could a powerless prince do? Zhu Yu had no choice but to endure silently his thatched hut and bamboo building. Saying nothing more, years passed, and just as Zhu Yun had gradually adjusted to this new life, his father, Emperor Zhu Yuanzhang, passed away. He was not overly saddened by this. After all, their time together as father and son was numbered. Soon, news arrived from the capital of Zhu Yunwen's ascension to the throne. Initially delighted at his childhood friend's ascension, Zhu Yunwen soon gave way to worry. He felt bitter. I don't even have 3.000 guards. So what's the point of reducing my power? Zhu Yunwen replied. It is precisely because you have no troops that you serve as a test case for reducing the power of the princes. A warning to others. Zhu Yun burst into tears and became one of the first princes to be deposed. He was demoted to a commoner and escorted to Zhangzhou. However, this third exile did not last long, as he heard news of his fourth brother, Zhu Di, launching the Jingnan campaign. Soon, Zhu Di captured Nanjing and restored his throne. Now reinstated, Zhu Yun decided to return to Yunnan, marking his fourth move. Despite his apparent discomfiture, he was emboldened this time. With his fourth brother's support, he could act with impunity in Yunnan. However, his good fortune was short-lived. He was soon impeached by his ministers. Furious, Zhu Di stripped him of his military power and ordered him to come to Beijing to confess his guilt. It dawned on Zhu Yu that all emperors were the same, steadfastly determined to weaken the power of the feudal lords. Zhu Yu was unconcerned, having witnessed the deaths of 4 emperors before him. When someone asked him if he worried about a change of ruler, Zhu Yu stared blankly into the sky. Others assumed he was deaf, but in reality, he was wondering whether the change of rulers would matter to him. A few days later, news arrived from the palace that Zhu Qiyu had ascended the throne, accompanied by an imperial edict and 10,000 taels of silver. Upon receiving the imperial edict, the entire Min Palace erupted in jubilation. and everyone began packing their belongings for their seventh move. Watching the busy figures in the courtyard, Zhu Yu suddenly smiled with relief. He felt like a prince living on a carriage, wandering from south to north, from west to east. Looking back on those 72 years, only memories of displacement remain. Thinking of this, he seemed to see his father, his elder brother, and Zhu Yunwen waving to him. He slowly closed his eyes, lay down on the bamboo chair, and never woke up again.